Shalom. I was just meditating within the spirit, and I was just like, very thankful, that we got the truth, because it could have shit could have went way left, right? Because there was a time that we was in this world lost, like a wandering, like a wandering sheep. If a sheep, you know anything about, if you study animals, a sheep, um, if they don't have a shepherd, they good as dead, and that was likened to how we was. Um, we was wandering through America in the spiritual sense, lost, didn't know who we was, didn't really understand our purpose, don't know what we, you know, going, so on and so forth. It's completely lost. And it's a miracle, going back into the book of Baruch 2 and 30, that, it's a miracle for us to wake up and be able to understand this doctrine. This doctrine is from the heavens. You got very low men, I'm just saying according to the world status, we're not like no celebrities and nothing like that. And no multi-millionaires. You got some brothers that's a little bit more well-to-do than others, but we're not like celebrities. You get what I'm saying? Just regular coming men, so-called blue-collar men. That the Lord chose to push this truth. And all you brothers and you sisters, starting at the brethren, you're very significant, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times um, we we don't really think about how, it's always the we be catching hell in the flesh. We think about the affliction, but you gotta think about the other side too. Like, how much joy it is to know the truth. That's how, ever since I was a little child, I always wanted to know the truth. Why are things the way they are? Why am I here? What is my purpose? You know what I'm saying? That we have figured that out through the spirit. The flesh kind of has its own mind sometimes, but the spirit is really who you is. That's your deeper inner self. So I was just meditating about so many different things that the Lord, the Lord's so cold blooded. Yahweh, He had us one sleep. Yes, like He had us one sleep. Right, we didn't know what was going on. We had the Bible. Some of us, like when I was real young, I used to like to read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? I used to read the Book of Revelation. I used to be terrified of it, but I always had that curiosity of the Bible. And that all makes sense because we gravitated to this because this is our culture. But you're gonna start to understand that the Bible is a cultural book. It's not really a religious book in the sense that you've been taught through this system. It's a cultural book about a particular people, which are the Israelites. That's like if I got a book about dinosaurs, that book cannot apply to lions. That's a book about the dinosaurs. The same thing with the Bible. You just been taught that it applies to anybody. No, this book was for the Israelites only. So if you're not an Israelite, you have no dealing with this book. This is a cultural book. And I think most people don't understand this because they've been taught all wrong. They've been indoctrinated under what they think Christianity is. The Bible is a cultural book for the Israelites. Now, just because you've been taught otherwise or you don't understand that don't negate the fact. That's a real fact. Yahweh Shai would sit on to the Israelites. And there's many precepts we can go to, but if you can't see that and understand that, you'll never get it. Because you've been taught that you've been taught that the Messiah was a so-called white man. That's already an abomination right there. You actually, we all believed that at one time because we didn't know better. But going back into the book of Baruch 2 and 30, that there would be a time that we will wake up out of that. That's what you have to understand. The Lord activated us at different times to wake up. So the time is now that we're waking up right. We understand what's going on. We understand who we truly are. And we understand this doctrine. This doctrine is literally our lifeline. We don't have anything else tangible, right? This doctrine is all that we need. So let's go here. And I was thinking about like how, give me one second. I was thinking about how the Lord blocked off the wise and the prudent. You know, the people that you consider smart in this world, they have no clue what's going on. That's how cold the Lord is. He uses men that he handpicked in a spiritual sense, right? He handpicked to do this, you know what I'm saying, to be able to understand. And you brothers might feel like you're insignificant, but you're very significant, you know. But let's go here. John 10 and 27. It says, my sheep hear my voice. So we are likened to being sheep. And Yahweh Shai is our shepherd. If you know anything about that dynamic, the sheep life is dependent on the shepherd, right? Because you got some called a hireling, right, that don't give a damn about the sheep. They just there for the money. But a real true shepherd will give his life in the ancient world for his sheep. It's even done today when you go to parts of like Afghanistan and that region. The shepherd would fight off wolves, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's how deep it is. And Yahweh shall look at his elect, the men and women, the same way. It says, my sheep hear my voice. What does that mean? The elect understand the doctrine. It says, and I know them. So he know us already. It says, and they follow me. So we follow this doctrine. Thus, we follow Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah. Right? Because we know that's our shepherd. That's our lifeline. That's how we live. Right? Through Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah. And Yahweh Shah is the intercessor back into the Father. Right? So go here. Let's go here. And the Lord's so cold. Everybody got access to this Bible, but yet a few people understand it. When I say a few people, you know, it's a multitude of Israelites of the elect, but compared to the world population, it's just a small remnant. It says Matthew 11 and 25. At that time, Yahweh Shai answered and said, I thank thee, O Father. It says, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and has revealed them unto babes. So what does this really mean? So this doctrine, you'll think somebody that went to Harvard or Yale or one of these prestigious Ivy schools will be able to easily understand the Bible. That's not the case. They can't comprehend it. It's above their pay grade, so to speak. And what does it mean has revealed them unto babes? So a child is considered insignificant and depending on, you know, his parents, right? So a babe or a child is insignificant, right? Have no power in their hand. That's how the Lord referenced us, because like I just explained, like we'll be considered insignificant in this world. We don't got no status. We don't have no theologian degrees. It's all just through the Spirit. And that's something that the Edomites can't mess with. They can't put a price on that. They can't purchase it. And it drives them crazy. Because they like, how do these Israelites got this gift? Right? It was given on to us from the heavens. So you got the wise men of this world, even among our people, don't know what's going on. They can't understand the mysteries of the Bible. Like we'll go to a scripture that talk about the arrows, and we can see that's talking about missiles in that case, in that context, understand second Ezra's, right? I think that's chapter 16, right? When he bent in the bow, my arrows that shoot are sharpened and should not miss until they begin to be shot to the end of the world. We know that's talking about a missile. ICBM missile to be particular. But a regular person that has a theologian degree or somebody that may be considered a wise man in this world, they can't understand that. It don't make sense to them. It's almost like folly to them. It says John 14 and 6, moving on. It says Yahweh Shai said unto him, it says, I am the way, the truth, and life. A lot of you Christians you'll quote this scripture, but yet you see a so-called white man in your mind. That is demonic. Right? So as you read these scriptures and comprehend them, you got to see Yahweh and Yahweh Shai in your mind, their true likeness. This one needs to pop up into your mind. Let's go back. It says, no man coming unto the Father but by me. Why is this so? Yahweh Shai is that high priest. going back into the customary of the Israelites, that the sacrifice was that Day of Atonement, if I'm not mistaken. And then we had the other sacrifices as well. But the Day of Atonement, if I'm not mistaken, is when the high priest would go before the presence of the Lord, so to speak. It said like that, and once a year in the holies of holies, right? So that will not an intercessor is Yahweh Shai. This was an Israelite custom. So matter of fact, let me prove that real quick. Give me 1 second. Right, so I had to pull it up to prove all things. It says right here. It says the high priest in the Jewish, which ain't no such thing as Jewish, Israelite temple, Hebrew Israelite temple, was the only person allowed to enter in the holies of holies, to enter sanctuary, and did so only once a year, the Day of Atonement, like I said. So Yahweh Shah would be that high priest, right? You know what I'm saying? Now, the intercessor for the sins of Israel, to get them back into the, good graces of the Father. So that's why the scripture, it makes this scripture make more sense. John 14:6, Yahweh Shah said unto them, I am the way, the truth, and the truth is emphasized in this as well. It says, in the life, no man coming unto the Father but by me, right? So Yahweh Shah is the door. He's the good shepherd, right? He's back accessing to the Father to redeem the nation of Israel. He's that perfect lamb without blemish, so we can have this doctrine, and then we can go, play this out in this fleshly body, and then, qualify for salvation and immortality, new bodies, like superhuman bodies. Let's go here. There's way more to it. I'm just flowing through the spirit. John 10:11. It says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for his sheep. So we know the Lord's sheep is the Israelites among the elect in his lifetime, right? And that's why he's the good shepherd. And he, like I was explaining to you, a real shepherd would die to protect his flock, his sheep. That's a real shepherd, not a hireling. And this is why all this makes sense. It's going back into the occupation of being a shepherd, knowing the ins and outs. You got to study many things to get a deepness and richness of the scriptures, because there's always more layers to the scriptures, right? So this what it is. The Lord has redeemed us back. He called us back as he said he would. And the real Israelites among the elect gonna wake up and understand the doctrine. It ain't gonna be no flaws in the doctrine. The doctrine gonna be 100% of the truth. Because a little leaven mess up the, lump it up. I'm just saying that. But yeah, it's been a blessing to wake up out of this place here. This place here is nothing but confusion. And hopefully this lesson has been edifying. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rachat, Kodash, Shalom.